Hi, little friends. Tonight's story is Lumo, the bubble-breathing dragon. Far away at the top of a tall and stony mountain, there was a hidden village of dragons. Every evening, when the sun sank and painted the sky with streaks of red and gold, the dragons would gather to practice their fire breathing. They roared and puffed mighty flames that twisted into the sky like ribbons, lighting the night with sparks. Whoosh, whoosh, crackle. It was a dazzling sight, a festival of fire that could be seen from valleys far below. But among this proud clan of flame makers was one very small dragon. His scales glimmered like dew under sunlight, soft and silvery, and his wings were delicate, almost like lace. His name was Lumo, and Lumo was not like the others. While the dragons roared, he blew bubbles. Not hot, roaring fire, not even tiny flames, just bubbles. Some were small and quick, bouncing in the air like marbles. Some were huge, drifting like balloons across the sky. And when they popped, plink, pop, plink, they left sparkles of color behind. What made them even stranger was that Lumo's bubbles carried his feelings. When he was happy, they glowed golden. When he was sad, they turned cloudy blue. When he was frightened, they shimmered purple. And when he was excited, they sparkled like a rainbow. Yet, instead of admiring this gift, the other dragons laughed. The worst of all was Ignis, a young dragon with scales as orange as burning embers. Ignis loved showing off his powerful fire, and he never missed a chance to tease Lumo. "Look at him," Ignis would shout, his voice echoing against the cliffs. "He can't breathe fire, only soap bubbles. What good will those ever do?" Then he would puff a ring of fire into the sky and laugh as the others joined him. Lumo's cheeks burned. His bubbles, ashamed, would fade into pale pinks and purples. He curled his wings tightly, wishing he could disappear. In a mountain where every dragon was measured by their flame, he felt like he didn't belong. One morning, after another round of cruel laughter, Lumo could no longer bear it. His bubbles came out angry red, trembling as they rose. He stomped his small feet, his voice shaking. Enough! And with that, he turned away from the others and began to climb down the mountain path. Step by step, lower and lower, until the sounds of fire and laughter faded into the distance. The further he walked, the cooler the air became. He smelled damp moss, sweet flowers, and the earthy scent of pine. The rocks grew softer, covered with green ferns. And then he heard something he had never heard before. Splash, splash, giggle. Curious, Lumo peeked around a boulder. There, in a crystal-clear spring, was a dragon unlike any he had ever seen. This dragon had scales of blue and green, shimmering like the ocean. He darted and twirled through the water, flicking droplets into the air that glittered like diamonds. His laughter was light and musical, like bells dancing in the breeze. Lumo gasped, without meaning to. The dragon looked up, blinking his gentle eyes. "Hello," he said, his voice soft and curious. "Are you lost?" Lumo shuffled out from behind the rock. "Not lost. I just came down here. My name is Lumo, and I don't breathe fire. I breathe bubbles." To prove it, he puffed out a stream of yellow bubbles that bobbed happily in the air. The water dragon's eyes widened. Bubbles! They're beautiful! He leaned close, listening as they popped with soft notes. Pop, pop, plink. They sound like music. No one had ever said that before. Lumo's heart fluttered. For the first time, he felt proud. "My name is Aqua," the dragon said with a playful swish of his tail. Water leapt into shapes, a fish that swam in circles, a flower that blossomed in his claws, a star that shimmered before dissolving into ripples. Lumo giggled, his golden bubbles filling the air. The two dragons spent hours playing, mixing bubbles and water into shapes and sounds, splashing and laughing until the sun dipped behind the trees. Days turned into weeks. Lumo visited the spring often, and each time Aqua welcomed him with a cheerful splash. Together, they invented games, bubble races, bubble and water sculptures, even a game of chasing musical bubbles that popped into tiny notes. With Aqua, Lumo forgot the sting of Ignis's laughter. For once, he wasn't the odd one out. He was special. Then something even more magical happened. One afternoon, Lumo puffed out a bubble while thinking about a sweet, juicy berry. The bubble shimmered gold. Pop, plink, and right at his feet appeared a plump red berry. Lumo stared. He tried again, wishing for a shiny bell. Pop! The bell dropped into the grass, chiming softly. Aqua's eyes widened with wonder. "Lumo, your bubbles can make wishes come true." A thrill ran through Lumo. He wasn't weak. He wasn't strange. He was extraordinary. But peace never lasts forever. One bright afternoon, as Lumo and Aqua were playing, a shadow loomed. Heavy footsteps, thud, thud, echoed across the rocks. A crackle of fire followed. Ignis had found them. His eyes narrowed at Aqua. "Who's this? Another dragon that doesn't belong?" Then he turned to Lumo. "Still playing with bubbles? Pathetic." Before Lumo could reply, Ignis puffed out his chest. He wanted to prove his fire was stronger than anything Lumo could do. He roared, "Foosh!" A wave of flame larger than he had ever made. It blasted into an old, dry tree. Foosh! The tree burst into fire. The blaze spread quickly, feeding on dry grass and leaves. Flames leapt from tree to tree. Smoke curled high, darkening the sky. Birds screeched and fled. Aqua's scales darkened with alarm. He swirled the spring water desperately, sending whirlpools and sprays, splash, swoosh, but his power was still young. Drops fizzled uselessly against the fire. Ignis's eyes widened. He hadn't meant for the flames to grow so huge. He puffed smaller blasts, trying to push it back, but only made it worse. The heat grew unbearable. Lumo's bubble swirled red, shaking in panic. His chest thumped like a drum. He could see the fire crawling toward the spring, toward his friends. Aqua's eyes brimmed with fear. Ignis's wings drooped, trembling. Then Lumo remembered. His bubbles can make wishes come true. He took the deepest breath of his life. "Please," he whispered, "please keep us safe." He blew with all his might. Whoosh! Out came a shimmering bubble, so large it swallowed the air around him. It grew bigger and bigger, larger than Lumo, larger than Aqua, larger even than Ignis. A sphere of every color swirled and expanded until it wrapped around them like a glowing shield. Woof! Outside, the fire roared and snapped, but inside the bubble, it was calm. The heat vanished. The smoke turned to muffled whispers. Aqua clung to Lumo's wing, trembling but safe. Ignis stared around him, his proud eyes wide with awe. "Incredible," he whispered. Above, great shadows descended. Elder dragons had come, massive water dragons, mighty wind dragons, steady earth dragons. Together they fought the flames. Water crashed, winds howled, earth stomped, until the fire finally died. leaving smoke drifting across the charred forest. Lumo let his bubble pop, pop, releasing them. The elders turned to the three young dragons. "You were brave," said one with wise silver eyes. "Especially you, Lumo. That bubble saved lives." Aqua's scales brightened to sparkling blue. Ignis lowered his head, ashamed. He said, "I'm sorry. I only wanted to show my strength. I never meant to hurt anyone." And Lumo, I was wrong. Your bubbles aren't silly. They're amazing. You're amazing. Lumo's bubbles glowed bright yellow with joy. For the first time, Ignis's smile was not mocking, but grateful. From that day on, Lumo, Aqua, and Ignis became inseparable friends. They played together, practiced together, and learned from each other. Ignis discovered that fire alone didn't make a dragon strong. Kindness and control mattered too. Aqua grew braver, using his water not just for games, but to protect others. And Lumo learned that being different wasn't a weakness at all. It was his greatest gift. Sometimes, when the night sky was quiet, the three of them would sit together by the spring. Lumo would blow bubbles that floated like lanterns. Aqua would make water dance around them. Ignis, calmer now, would warm them with small, gentle flames. And together, they would laugh, their reflections shining side by side. So, if you ever see a bubble glimmering in the sunlight, plink, pop, remember little Lumo, the dragon whose bubbles carried wishes, friendship, and courage, and who proved that sometimes being different is the most magical thing of all. The end.